Hi, I wanted to talk to you about a question that I get a lot of times from some newer students of mine, as well as people that are interested in doing training in Ninpo. And that is, what exactly is Ninpo? How is it different than ninjutsu? And, basically, how can you tell the difference? What's the difference between Ninpo and Ju-jitsu and all that kind of stuff? So I wanted to make a short video and just give you a little perspective on, as I see Ninpo. And I've been teaching and training for a little bit, and just to kind of put it out there and hopefully to generate a good conversation. First, is there a difference between Ninpo and Jujutsu? And when I'm talking about Jujutsu, I'm talking about traditional Japanese Jujutsu. Or like if you were to put two side by side, like the same technique, are you going to see a distinction, or is it the same technique? Well, Ninpo is a martial art. We call it a Ninpo Buge. Buge literally means martial art. So when we're talking about Ninpo Buge, we're talking about the complete package, so to speak, of martial skill. However, I want to make a distinction and maybe kind of provide a little bit of a shift in paradigms in the way that we think of martial arts. So when we think of martial arts, a lot of times you think of going to past your local karate school or jiu-jitsu school. Apologize, ambulance going by. But and you think about people doing different techniques. Now, when you think about that in the context of, are they doing jiu-jitsu, are they doing ninpo, are they doing karate, what specific style? Don't think about Ninpo in that context. As I teach my students, Ninpo is Bujutsu as a martial art. Bujutsu, most people know the term Budo, meaning martial way. And when we talk about Bujutsu is a little bit more of a specific term. It's a little bit of an older term that you'll hear. And basically it infers, the way that it was taught to me is when you hear jutsu at the end versus do. Do is going to focus on more internal aspects of the art, and essentially you're not there to harm your training partner. So if you think about judo, aikido, budo, these are things that are done, that you are working with somebody, but your ultimate goal is not really to hurt them, right? It's a different kind of environment. So when you hear jutsu, such as jujitsu or ninjutsu or bujitsu, so it's instead of budo, bujitsu, this is inferring that you are trying to actually harm the person. It is a combative technique, and we are concerned about winning, about our preservation of the people that we care about is our primary concern, right? So even if we have compassion within the art. So we say that Ninpo is bujitsu. It is martial skill. But when you think about the idea of, is it different from Jujutsu? Well, yes and no. If you think about the idea of going past your local martial arts school and you're seeing a Japanese Jujutsu school or, many styles of martial arts, a lot of times it can be indistinguishable. When you think about the idea of Ninpo having come from ninjutsu, and ninjutsu is a part of any kind of military operation in that you have an intelligence component. All right, so is that part of the martial or military arts? Well, yes, it is. Now, the idea behind the strategy that's involved is going to focus primarily on remaining unseen. It's going to focus on escaping rather than engaging. So that being said, you could do the same technique, but the mentality of it might be a little different. Like if you're someone with your family and there is danger, you're not gonna, you're gonna avoid rushing to the danger. You're gonna focus on, let me protect my family, me keep them safe, get out of the area, right? So the physical combative nature is the last resort. As a matter of fact, my first Ninpo teacher instilled in me the concept that Ninpo never attacks, that it is a strictly defensive art. So it's done in a very specific way. That being said, we do Jujutsu. We do martial arts. Combat is combat at the end of the day. You might have different rituals, different etiquette, different words that you use, but what does, that to somebody's arm in one art is going to do the same thing to their arm in a different art. It might have a different necessity of use. So, for example, as being, part of a military that's going onto a battlefield, old style, and fighting is different than the idea of somebody who is going to, need to sneak into an area to gain intelligence, right? It's all part of a larger picture for your team, right? But different style. So when you think about this, it's just a different way to go about it. But I want to also mention, too, the idea when we talk about, we study different what's called ruha, which is different systems, different lineages, and there's older styles and newer styles. I'm not really going to get into any of that. But the styles that we study are pretty much derived from Japanese martial arts, from Ju-jitsu, right? They are, come from a use of various ways, whether it's battlefield, bodyguard, different ways that you would use the same techniques. So in these different systems, you're going to see the strategy being employed will change, but the techniques will remain similar to each other. So that being said, back to the idea of Ninpo, and what is Ninpo versus ninjutsu now? So you understand what ninjutsu is. Is it running around with in a completely black outfit, running around and throwing ninja stars? No. All right, that's silly. And there is that component. If you look on YouTube and different things, you'll see people that are pushing that forward. The way that I have been taught, the way that I teach, is I want it to be very factual. I want it to be very practical as well. And honestly, if somebody comes to my school and they say, hey, I want to learn how to sneak around and do all this stuff, my first question is why? How are you living your life that you want to learn those things? And why should I feel comfortable teaching you those things based on, having we haven't established any kind of trust, any kind of knowledge of each other. So I would submit to you that the idea of there being secrets within an art such as Ninpo or ninjutsu is that comes down to a degree of trust. Can you trust the people that you are working with, and understanding the motives that they have, right? So somebody that coming into the school, no, you're not going to see a difference. It does depend school to school, but ultimately in Takamatsu Den, which is where a lot of our systems come from, and I also do a Sato Kinbei Den style Jujutsu as well. That there's going to be a lot of similarities, a lot of crossover, but hopefully you'll understand the difference between ninjutsu is more, or Ninpo is more of like a martial mindset. It's a life mindset. The idea that the ninja were attuned to nature. They were the farming class. They were people that were kind of used to getting down in it and known for doing whatever they have to do in order to win. That's what made them so formidable, is the idea of that they just will not give up. So if you think about the idea now of ninjutsu versus Ninpo, as I said, that idea of endurance and fortitude, perseverance, it's a life skill. It's much more than, putting on some hokey mask and running around. So this is something that can be valuable to everybody in society, and not just people that want to learn a historical martial art. So this is where we talk about Ninpo. Ninpo is for the community. It's for use in everyday community rather than just for battlefield. And this is why we use the term Ninpo. It encompasses ninjutsu, but it has a grand mission of creating harmony within our communities. And that harmony starts with yourself. It starts with a sense of balance, so that you don't need to have be driven by ego, by desire, so that, and it doesn't mean that you don't strive, that you don't have ambition, but that you are the one that's in control of that. It starts with you as an individual, and then it naturally radiates out through your family and through your community, and this is how we make our community, and by extension the world, a better place. And this is the philosophy of Ninpo. So it is a life martial art, right? So I hope this gives you a little bit of an understanding of it. It might also create some questions. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them right where you see this video. If you see it on YouTube, if you see it on Facebook, and be sure to tag me. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And thanks so much for listening.